Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of X's and O's, broadcasting to you from Herd and Horns. I'm Jay Lennander.
And I'm Eric Bunnell.
And today we're going to be talking about, as we usually do, the NDSU Bison football team. Always a hot topic within the region during this time of year. And Eric, we saw the Bison have a huge matchup against SDSU this past weekend in which the Bison took back the Dakota marker. What were some of your takeaways from that first game, or from that big game?
Obviously 1 versus 3, it's always going to be big matchup. I think that was the FCS matchup of the year. But SDSU had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and it showed. The first drive, they were able to march right down the field, 7-0. Their second drive of the game, they were marching, but Jalen Allison had that nice interception at the goal line, and Bison was able to swing the momentum there and take it 7-7. But both defenses lived up to the standard. The game lived up to the name. The Dakota marker on the line. It's a rivalry game. You can say you're favored by 12. It doesn't matter. Any game, it don't matter. You come into the Fargo Dome or go down to Brookings, NDSU SDSU is always going to be close, except for 2017 when it was 33-21. But 2017 33-21. But it doesn't matter anymore. It's these two top teams could meet again in Frisco, and NDSU's got to avoid them. NDSU wins out, they avoid SDSU unless James Madison. No, NDSU wins out and SDSU wins out. We don't see these guys until Frisco again, if they make it.
And another thing that we saw that we haven't yet this year from this game was the Bison trailing going into the fourth quarter. What do you think was really a big takeaway in terms of how they handled the end of the game and how they were able to persevere through being down at a very key part of the game?
Well, I feel like their leader stepped up. You saw Easton Stick step up. His nice third and 20 conversion ran for 22 yards. I know that wasn't in the fourth quarter, but you saw him step up. You saw him take control of the game. You saw the offensive line not let Easton Stick get touched at all in the fourth quarter. And then on the defensive side, you saw Jabril Cox. Greg Menard laid the wood on Taryn Christian, and he's still – Taryn, I don't know how he got it from the hit because that was a big hit. But I don't know. That defense and the fresh legs, they were rotating like 8 guys in that fourth quarter, and they were all fresh. I mean, the only thing that hurt him was the secondary, and Taryn Christian's legs. But you gotta live with that if you're gonna win. And the defense stepped up and made big plays when they need to. And Garrett Wagner was the big success. The punter, Missouri Valley Punter of the Week. The last drive SDSU had pinned him down in the 7th to make him go 93 yards the length of the field. That's pretty hard to do in 2.5 minutes.
Absolutely huge. And as we see the Bison be 4-0, really great start to their season. But one of the aspects that's kind of stood out as not being as good as last year is the running game. Yes, there was a big game early against Cal Poly, but ever since then we haven't seen either Bruce Anderson or Lance Dunn have a really big game for the Bison. Do you think it's more about sort of nerves between the senior year, sort of a change in how they're handling the backfield with Ty Brooks getting more carries, or do you think it has more to do with the offensive line sort of not being as good at run blocking, despite how excellent they've been in pass protection this year?
I don't think it has to do with anything with that. I think you're starting to see Easton Stick take control, and I feel like he's checking out a lot of these runs because he likes what the defense is giving him. They're giving him big yardage chunks down the field. Then, I mean, if you're going to be successful, they're going to load up with the run against the Bison. Every team they play is going to load up against the run. Now Easton Stick's starting to beat him with your arm. How are you going to be able to defend that? I mean, you really don't say – the offensive line is still performing pretty well. They're having 200 yards a game. Yeah, they didn't have the cupcakes they had last year. Eastern Washington wasn't a cupcake. Or Robert Morris, Mississippi Valley State, where you could rack up 400, 500 yards on the ground and not have to throw the ball that much. But the offensive line play, they're looking stellar. They're just putting 8, 9 guys in the box, and Stick's starting to beat him with his arm.
And so moving forward, we see the Bison, I believe, go on the road for the first time this upcoming week, facing another Missouri Valley opponent in northern Iowa. And we've seen Northern Iowa take NDSU to the brink over the past couple years. Obviously, that huge homecoming game in which Carson Wentz finished it in the last second with a big touchdown pass. But we've kind of seen a little bit of Northern Iowa having the Bison's number, but then some other over the past year or two that it hasn't been the case. So what do you see from Northern Iowa, and how does it present a new challenge for this Bison team going into this matchup?
Well, like you said, anytime these two teams meet, it's a close game. Playoffs, regular season. I know they ended, I believe it was 2014, they ended the streak of like 33 games in a row. The Uni Dome is a tough place to play. It's loud. It's rocking. Coach Kleiman compared it to the Fargo Dome. The Fargo Dome's probably a little louder because it holds more people, and definitely Bison fans are always more faithful than any team in the country, but it's just a tough place to play. They know each other so well. Coach Kleiman has ties to Northern Iowa. Being a player there, Coach Messingham, and Matt Entz, the D coordinator, has ties there. They all have ties down there, but it's just going to be a tough place to play. UNI knows what NDSU wants to do. NDSU knows what UNI wants to do. It's like they're going up playing each other pretty much. To me, that's what it looks like in the backfield. And I don't know, it's just a dogfight to the end. And that Wildcat system that they're going to have going. Kleiman mentioned that in his press conference. They're going to have – he's preparing to face 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, and they're both seniors. They're both experienced. They both know how to play. It's just going to matter of what defense plays better.
And that's actually what I was going to ask you about next is the fact that Northern Iowa is using 2 quarterbacks. Not something you see a whole bunch, but it does happen, especially in some FCS places, like Missouri State occasionally does that. But we haven't really seen the Bison go up against that this year. We know that in the past couple of years they've had some trouble against options or option offenses, especially on the ground. So do you think that using 2 quarterbacks is really going to be a big impact this weekend, or is it just going to be another something that they just have to sort of deal with and aren't going to have much trouble with?
I mean, I feel like it's just another thing the Bison got to deal with. Dunn, he really hasn't been very successful against the Bison in his 3 starts. Stick has been more successful against Northern Iowa in his 3 starts. To me, it doesn't matter who you're facing. You've played a dual team. You've played a spread. You've played a power team. You've played all sorts of teams, so you've seen all the different kind of quarterbacks. So I think it's not going to matter. That Bison defense is just going to line up and play smash mouth football like they always do. Jabril Cox is going to be flying all over the place. Grimsley and Hendricks and Allison and Marquise Bridges in the secondary, they're just going to be so good. And Northern Iowa does not have one of their top receivers lost to graduation, drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, probably going to go on to a successful career in the NFL. But I just don't see Northern Iowa's 2 quarterbacks things working out very well. They're not Alabama.
That's for sure. Big statement by Eric Bunnell on this broadcast. Northern Iowa is not Alabama. You know, we take the hardest line stances on the Bison Information Network. But is there anything else you have to say going forward? Maybe even looking a little bit further ahead against the Bison. Obviously, a lot of optimism with the strong start, as has been the usual case for the Bison. But is there anything else down the line that maybe would start to concern you? Because as things have been going so well, obviously you start to look further and further down the schedule. Is there a point that you would say that maybe we'd run into problems other than, say, James Madison once we hit the playoffs?
I mean, I think a team that could give NDSU problems, and they've given NDSU problems in the past, is Western Illinois or Illinois State. You got Northern Iowa this week. Going to be a tough game. You got Western Illinois on the road at night. That place is always tough to play. I think it was like down to a last-second play at the end for NDSU to come out over Western 2 years ago when they went to Macomb. And then they come to Illinois State at home, back to the Fargo Dome. How are they going to handle that? Illinois State, I know that they were number 9. They have a couple nice FBS wins over Colorado State, who beat Arkansas, but Arkansas lost to North Texas. So I guess I don't know how really good they really are. But even an FBS win is an FBS win. I mean, NDSU beat Minnesota in 2007 and handled them fairly easy, so it doesn't matter how bad that team is. You get FBS, FCS, it's always an upset win. I think that team, and I think South Dakota at South Dakota could give them a run for their money. Otherwise, I see the Bison going unscathed, and knock on wood, there's no injuries to the Bison. They're pretty healthy right now. They have nobody that's done for. They lost Aaron Mercadal, who's going to key contributor on special teams, but other than that, they have really no injuries. And there's a couple players that are playing. There are a lot of younger classmen that are vowing for playing time. That could become pivotal down the stretch. Hopefully, injuries don't play a factor like they have in the years past. But NDSU's shown that they have the depth to maintain with injuries.
And then that is a really good point. Last year at this point, they had DeLuca go down and Lance Dunn, 2 very important key parts, out for a very extended portion of the season. But so far, and maybe part of that is due to Easton Stick being able to throw the ball a little bit more, as you don't have as much banging going around, and so they've been able to go through the air, and maybe that'll help alleviate some of the injury problems the Bison have had.
I mean, I hope so, because Stick's arm is going to be crucial, and I know when he scored that go-ahead touchdown, everybody watched him give a big old fist pump with his right arm, and NDSU coaches are probably thinking on the sidelines, Easton, do that with your left arm, please, and not with your right. We don't want you to go down for this season or end up hurting yourself and costing us. But even if Easton does go down, I think the Bison are fine. They have Noah Sanders. They have Trey Lance, who showed off his wheels.
Yep.
I don't even remember, against North Alabama, 44-yard touchdown run.
Yep.
They have Holden Hotchkiss, who's the backup right now. I think NDSU will be okay if Easton ever does have to miss a game for whatever reason. But I hope that's not the case, because you want the best player, because he's an elite quarterback. He's learned from Carson Wentz, who's leading the Philadelphia Eagles right now and just come back from an ACL. I think they'll be fine.
And they should be fine, and it will be very exciting to watch going forward this Bison team. They've got a very good start to the season, and we're hoping that it continues moving forward. But we're going to be taking a quick break. Stay right there, as when we come back, we'll be talking about everything regarding the MLB Playoffs. Stay with us. Conveniently located across the street from NDSU's campus, Herd & Horns is the place to go, whether you're looking for a fantastic meal or just a quick bite to eat.
Hi, welcome to Herd & Horns. Are you from Drake?
With friendly staff and excellent service, it's a restaurant for all ages. Herd & Horns, your home for great food and Bison sports. Welcome to Bison Block. If you are an NDSU student, you know it well. It's located right across the street from campus. How would you like to live in the same building as Starbucks, Jimmy John's, and Herd & Horns? Bison Block offers high-quality apartments at a very affordable price. For more information, go to our website at bisonblockfargo.com to apply today. Welcome back, everyone, to X's and O's. Now we are moving on to talking about the MLB playoffs. Obviously, a very exciting day yesterday in which the Chicago Cubs and Milwaukee Brewers matched up, and the Dodgers and the Rockies matched up in two Game 163s. A crazy, crazy day. And now the playoffs are just about set with the wild card games. One of the wild card games happening tonight, and the other wild card game happening tomorrow. And Eric, I noticed that you look a little different than when we came back from before break.
You got to support the Brewers, and hometown MVP Christian Yelich, guaranteed. He's a lock to win MVP. If he doesn't, there's something wrong with the MLB. He really showed out in yesterday's game. He went 3 for 4. Yeah, he got upstaged by Orlando Arcia, who finally had a good game, 4 for 4, 2 runs. But Yelich 3 for 4, drove in the first RBI of the game, and then Anthony Rizzo decided to tie it in the 5th inning. But Ryan Braun showed up yet again. He shows up when it matters, and that's all that counts. They go on to win 3-1. Man, watching them win the division for the first time in 7 years was just an incredible feeling, and I didn't care what I was doing the rest of the day. You could have told me something bad, I wouldn't care, because I was so happy that the Brewers finally won the division.
Yep, and they did it in strong fashion too. A close game, very well pitched early between Quintana and Chachin. Yeah, it was a very intense game up until the very end, and the Brewers came away with it once again thanks to their very strong bullpen with Hader going a very solid 2 innings to close it off. But I guess we'll talk about. Would you rather we talk about what the Cubs now have to deal with now that they lost, or what the Brewers could be looking for moving forward?
Let's see what the Cubs we got to do, because they have a lot to deal with right now. They have a depleted bullpen, and that a lot of people don't realize that. Okay, yeah, you got John Lester going tonight.
Yeah.
What happens if you get shelled right away? You give up 3 runs right away. Madden's probably going to be quick to pull the trigger on him and get him out of that game. And I know you have a depleted bullpen, but you have to see how long he can go. As soon as the Rockies start getting hits off of him, I think the Rockies are going to take control of this ball game. But on the other side, their pitcher, Freeland, is only on 3 days rest. So it's going to be like, and it's in Wrigley Field. It depends on what the wind's doing. We saw yesterday, not a lot of home runs hit. The wind is blowing in. The wind's blowing out. That's a home run ballpark. Guaranteed you'll see 4 of them.
Yeah,
but
and it is interesting that Lester is the pitcher, because he does have a history of getting pulled early in certain games. Even in several playoff situations, we've seen him get the leash early. And if you need to know what that does to a ball club, you can look at what the Twins did last year. Irvin Santana was out of there almost right away. And Luis Severino for the Yankees had to be pulled right away, which put both teams in pretty perilous situations. So I think it's very possible that we could see both teams having to rely on their bullpen, which is where it starts to get a little bit iffy for the Cubs, because the Rockies would probably be deeper in the bullpen than the Cubs are right now, because they got Sung-Hwan Oh, they got Wade Davis, they've got Jake McGee. They've invested a lot into this bullpen, making some very smart trades, especially with O, because the Blue Jays just picked him up randomly for very little, and he's had a great season. He's got an under 2-point ERA. And they've just been making some really smart moves in the bullpen. And that's one of the places where the Rockies do have the advantage over the Cubs, which is the big reason why that game was important, because now the Cubs, they're in a one-and-done situation, which honestly is almost as bad as not making the playoffs at this point. As a Twins fan, that's kind of how it felt. It was like, oh, what was even the point if you can't take out that one game? It's the most stressful game in baseball, honestly, because even when you get to the World Series, you get 7 games. They go on forever, and even if you lose one, it's like, okay, we come in the next day and you get a second chance. This is one game where your entire season's on the line. And it is also an incredibly unique situation, because both of these teams are coming off that same type of game yesterday. Although, of course, it wasn't to be eliminated. It was still a very important one-game series, and now they have to play them back-to-back. It's really a crazy situation. And in terms of the Cubs, now that they've lost, it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, if they can hold up, because Lester, he's a bit older as a pitcher, and like I said, he's had histories of having short games. So I think a lot of it does rely on him. And do you think that with sort of him knowing that this bullpen just went through what they did, and that both teams are so desperate for getting strong pitching, that's going to have any impact on his psyche? Especially with him being a veteran pitcher, do you think that things are leaning one way or the other in your mind?
I mean, I think for him, you just got to go out there and throw. You're not thinking about it. Yeah, you're in a pressure-packed situation. One game, you got to win one game to get on to the best of 5 facing the Brewers. But you can't be thinking about that. You have to be thinking about right now. You have to be thinking about the next pitch. You can't be thinking about the next out. You just have to think pitch by pitch and try not to get raveled. But the Rockies do have an advantage. I give them the advantage because last Thursday they had off. The Cubs are playing for almost a week and a half straight.
Yeah.
That bullpen is very depleted. They've had to use it all the time because they wanted to try to stay away from the Brewers, who, by the way, won 8 straight to end the season and win the division. I mean, no margin for error. Yeah, Castellanos for the Tigers let a ball go over for Ryan Braun for a home run, 6-5. I'm not complaining because they forced 163 and the Cubs lost 2-1 to the Cardinals. So, but I mean, you have to focus on the next pitch. Next pitch, that's got to be everybody's mindset. If I'm the Cubs, focus on the next pitch. Javi Baez, he's going to go up there. I guarantee you he's going to try to swing for the fence. If he doesn't try swinging for the fences, by the way, he leads the league in strikeouts. If he doesn't swing for the fences, imagine how much better he could be, because he's always trying to crush it out to the deep left field or deep right field. He's like, he kind of reminds me of Carlos Gomez. Carlos Gomez, because that's all he did was try to just hit home runs. But another stat for Kyle Freeland, who's pitching for the Rockies tonight, 2.85 ERA, the 5th best in the National League and 6th best in the MLB. That's going to be hard to beat, but he's only on 3 days rest, so let's see how he can handle it.
And it is interesting to always see how big-name pitchers operate within these wild card games, going back to the Twins-Yankees example from last year. Severino, great pitcher. He's one of the best young aces in the game, but he got pulled after less than 2 innings. So you never know.
His ERA was 81 last year in the wild card game.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
and they still went on to win, but
yeah, it was a glimmer of hope in a Twins fan's eye that was instantly just crushed because it's the Yankees. Of course, we're not going to have long-term success against them. But moving on to sort of, I guess we'll talk about just the Brewers because past the wild card games, it's hard to really make conjecture about anything. But what do you think the Brewers have to do to maintain this momentum? Because they're the hottest team, if not in the major leagues, in the National League right now. What do you think that they have to do to be able to carry themselves all the way to the World Series?
I think they just got to keep doing what they've been doing all year. They've had points where they slid. Now they're on a high note. They won 8 in a row. You got to defend home field. You can go. Let's say the Brewers take a 2-0 lead on the Cubs or the Rockies. You can afford then to go into Coors Field or Wrigley Field and drop the first game, drop game 3, not have to worry about anything. You still have that dominant bullpen. The problem for Counsell that he's going to have to figure out is how are you going to use that bullpen with Hader, Jeffress, and Knebel? Because Hader, you can't really pitch him back-to-back days unless you just give him an inning. I mean, because you got to hope your starters can get to the 6th at least. If you pitch Hader an inning and a third, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Knebel and Jeffress can come lock down the 8th and 9th. Jeffress, you know, is probably going to lock it down, throwing high heat. Him, Knebel, and Jeffress that back there, I'd be a little concerned if I'm any of these teams and try to jump out on the Brewers early to not go after them. But also, you've seen the emergence of Brandon Woodruff. He's been pitching pretty well lately, but they have to cut the roster down to 25. So you got to figure out which relievers are going to make it. Cedeno, Soria, outfielders. You got Yelich, Kane, Braun, Granderson, Santana, who's been hitting he's 8-18 as a pinch hitter this season since August. Got to figure out who you're going to bring with you to the playoffs, the 25-man roster, and you got to figure that out soon. Because I know probably they're going to bring 3 starters: Miley, Chacin, and Gonzalez. Because you're playing 2 games and you get a day off. So that 4th starter will go on 3 days rest. We can even use it for a bullpen day if you really wanted to. But just back to your question, you got to remain level-headed. The Brewers know they have a talent to win the World Series, just as any team thinks they have a shot. But right now, in my eyes, I think it's the Red Sox, Indians, Brewers, and then Dodgers. There's a chance to make the World Series. I think between those 4 teams, those are going to be the teams in the World Series.
And we'll adjust back to more of a wide frame picture of what this postseason is going to look like for the MLB in a little bit. But I want to quickly touch on the game tomorrow, the American League wild card game between the Oakland Athletics and the New York Yankees. This is another high-powered game. The Oakland Athletics, another team that has come out of nowhere. And really built something special. And the Yankees find themselves in the same position they were in last year in the wild card game in the American Leagues behind the Red Sox. What are some of the things that stand out about this game? Obviously, another fun game to watch. I think a lot of this stuff that's happening early in the MLB playoffs is really exciting stuff.
It's the postseason. It's the most exciting time of the year.
Especially
just kidding, March Madness, but I'll take the postseason right now.
Yeah, but especially these wild card games, one game, win or you're out. It's always so exciting. And the Yankees have a lot of experience now in this situation. Funny enough to say that they've been getting pushed behind the Red Sox for so long. Do you think that experience is really going to take them over the Athletics, who are an unexperienced surprise team, a la the Twins that they faced last year, an unexperienced surprise team? Do you think they're going to be able to learn from their mistakes like Severino blowing it last year?
I mean, I think the Yankees have definitely learned. They've loaded their lineup. They've set the Major League record for most home runs in a single season. Judge, Stanton, Torres, but Torres is out. There's so many good hitters that I can't even think of them all off the top of my head right now. But I think they've learned. New manager. He's going to come in, fresh ideas. Yes, Severino's starting. can the A's hit on him early is the question. Because if the A's can hit on him early and get to that Yankees bullpen early, I think the A's are going to win unless it's the A's getting hit on early, because you want to get to Blake Terrain in that bullpen to shut down the game for you.
Yeah.
But these two teams just played about a month ago, or maybe a little under a month ago, and the Athletics beat the Yankees.
Yeah.
And the Athletics score more runs on the road than they do at home, and the same with the Yankees. So it's going to be a team of who can score more runs. I think it's going to be like 8-5. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Probably some home runs, because down the right field line, it's only 3-14. Judge, Stanton, Chris Davis for the A's. I just don't know how to pick this game, but I do think the Athletics are going to find a way to pull it off and go to Boston. Although a Yankees-Red Sox NLDS would be a very cool series to watch.
And I think the biggest difference for me between what happened last year with the Yankees, between the Twins, is that this Athletics team is not the Twins. Their bullpen is stacked. Fernando Rodney, obviously a midseason acquisition, but Treinen has been outstanding this year. They've got a much deeper team than the Twins had, and they have been playing on fire all year. And it does speak volumes that the last time these two teams matched up, the Athletics did take it, and that might be in the Yankees' head, making them a little bit nervous. And Severino is obviously going to have it in his head of what happened last year. It's like, oh, I blew it, now I have to make it up, and that could push him past what you were talking about with Lester earlier, just throwing the ball. It's harder to just throw the ball when you've got the entire weight of the past included in the present, knowing that the Red Sox would come next, because that's probably what the Yankees are thinking about in this series. It's like, okay, if we can just get past this, it's the Red Sox, and in that series anything can happen.
Yeah.
So it really is crazy what's going to be happening in the Major League Playoffs, which leads us to sort of look at things as a bigger picture. You mentioned earlier that some of your favorites, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Brewers. In terms of once it actually starts getting down to the end, I guess why not just ask, who do you think is going to be the two teams in the World Series?
Well, I'll just go break it down first. I'll go AL, and then I'll go NL.
Yeah,
I think the AL, I think that as much as I want to say the A's are going to win, I think the Yankees are going to win due to that home field. Yankee Stadium is going to be rocking tomorrow night. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to go play the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox are the hottest team in baseball. I think the Red Sox do beat the Yankees, and then the Astros, I got to give the edge to the Astros over the Indians. The defending World Series champs are not going to want to go out first round. Yes, the Indians have chemistry. They've been together a lot longer. That bullpen's been together. That starting staff's been together. Terry Francona's done an incredible job down there, but with Cleveland. But I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Red Sox Houston, and then I think Houston's going to be. Houston's going to beat the Red Sox to go to the World Series. I know it's not a very popular pick because a lot of people are saying the Red Sox, yeah, they have 108 wins. Last time they've reached those amount of wins, they've won the World Series. Don't see that happening. And the NL, I think kills me to say this, but I think the Cubs beat the Rockies. But I was rooting for the Rockies. Rockies yesterday, they lost. So maybe if I root against them, they'll win. I mean, I don't know. I think it'd be a cool series because the Brewers right now own the record over the Rockies of 5-2. Brewers, obviously, I'm going to cheer for the home team. Brewers are going to beat the Rockies. Then I think it's going to be the Braves. I think the Braves are going to beat the Dodgers. I know they have Kershaw, Walker Buehler, they have Alex Wood. They have so many good players. But I think it's going to be the Braves. They're a surprise team. Ronald Acuna Jr., leadoff home run. Brewers, Braves, Astros in the World Series. Two former NL Central teams. The Brewers claiming their first ever World Series championship. And a quick fact before I turn it over to you. Craig Counsell was on that 2011 team when they went to the NLCS, playing second base. Now he's managing it. And he's won a World Series with the Marlins.
There is plenty happening in the Major League Baseball playoffs right now. It's going to be a crazy week. Tonight's game is going to be crazy. The one tomorrow is going to be crazy. If we see the Red Sox and Yankees play, of course, that's always an insane series to be happening in the playoffs. And it's all going to be very exciting, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it again right here on X's and O's. Thank you to Herd and Horns for having us this week. And I'm Jay Lennander.
And I'm Eric Bunnell. And before we go, in the words of Baker Mayfield, Christian Yelich for NL MVP.
See you next week.